out there. What was it? What was it that won the contest for you?
My talent.
Which is what?
Singing.
You're a singer. What's that?
Yes.
And that was everybody out there. They all voted for you. Is anybody out there in particular you need to thank?
Just Philip.
Is that your husband?
No.
No, it's not. Okay. Some guy you met on the ship?
Yes.
Very good. Yeah, he must be so proud of you right now. Just there you go. Drink it in, ma'am. All for you. All for you. Nice round of applause for him. There you go. Officer, what are you doing, buddy? Hey, I told you, we got problems. We got problems again. Hey, we got problems. Get these people to be quiet.
Usher! Usher! Get these people out of here now. You can't be quiet with the children up here, please. No! Quit!
There, officer. That lady right there, she's a problem. I saw her when she came in with all the different colored birds on her shirt right there. I'm scared of her.
Quiet, please.
Don't beg, officer. Just...
Well, I lost my gun.
You lost your gun. Well, you don't need to shoot these people. You just got to get them to be quiet.
It's the only way to do it, I can see.
Just shoot them?
Yeah, they're not minding.
I understand. Go get them under control, man. Ma'am, did you find your dog yet?
Hell no!
Are you calling it?
I'm calling him!
That call louder.
Hey, just pass gas. Come on, buddy. Come on, you damn dog. Come on.
Nothing? Oh, man. Well, come on. Yeah. Come on, Patrick. Come here. I think I know what the problem is. I think I know what it is. Come here. No, he didn't take it. Come on, Patrick. Come here. Come on up here. What's that?
I think she's got him.
You think she has him? No, I'll tell you what the problem is. Come here. Here's the problem. Yeah, got him, officer? You got him under control?
I want my dog.
Ladies have to go to the bathroom. She has all the toilet paper. It's not funny. Where do you have to go?
What about my dog? You should be looking for my dog, you know?
What's his name?
I just passed gas. Come on. Yes.
Excuse you.
Man, I'll tell you what the problem is. What's that?
Not what I did.
Oh, it's the dog's name? I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is I told you the wrong name. It doesn't show up when you call that name. But it will show up if you call this one. Say it loud and proud with feeling, and it will show up. It does every single time. Try that one out. Try that. No, come in. Don't go there. Just try it out.
I love Viagra. Come here. Hello. I love Viagra. Come on. Hello. I don't know.
You got him?
Yeah, no, he didn't come.
Nothing, huh?
Let's give him a better name.
Okay, I'll tell you what you do. Just sit right there. When you sit in that chair, that dog's going to jump right in your lap. Check it out. There you go. Just have a seat right there. Yeah. There you go. There he is. There he is. Is that Viagra?
Yeah, this is Viagra.
Nice. What kind of dog is Viagra?
I think he's a poodle.
Oh, it's a poodle. Nice. Hey, officer, you know what the problem is? Let me tell you what the problem is, buddy. Let me tell you what the problem is. You know why these people they're not listening to you? You know why?
No.
Because they're not understanding a word you say. Do you know why that is?
English?
They all speak angry Japanese. Lucky for you, now, so do you.
Asshole?
Fluent. Let it rip.
Hiroshima? No?
It's angry Japanese, Ace.
They're quiet.
They are. You got them under control?
Hey.
David, you up there?
No. 9.
You got them under control, right? You're sure about that? Possible. Yes. Okay, good. You better keep your eye on that. Officer, check him out. What's that? I don't know. What he's doing.
I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, down, down.
Hey, what are you doing?
I have a rash.
Hey, come here, man. You gotta sit down. Quit screwing around like that. We're trying to do a show here. Don't sit on her head. Officer, here's what I want you to do. Sit down, tap yourself on the forehead. You know the drill by now. Yeah, sit there. That's perfect. Ma'am, what have you got there?
My little puppy dogs.
Puppy dogs. That's nice. What kind of puppy dogs are those?
I don't know, I think they're like mixed puppy dogs.
Well, they look like Shih Tzus to me, but I don't know a lot about dogs. Hey, you know what I do know is these ones right here, these ones bite. I'm going to take these and we'll give them back to you after the show. How about that? Hey, if you have a dog or puppies in your lap, the next time I snap my fingers in the microphone, you're going to realize those dogs just wet your lap. And, what's the matter, man? Everything okay?
Stand back, right? He just peed on me.
That darn Viagra. That's terrible. What happened, ma'am? What's wrong?
I'm all wet.
You're all wet. All right. Listen, I'm going to fix it for you. You two look right up here. You two look right up here. You and you look right up here. Take a nice deep breath in. Hold it. Don't let any air escape at all. If any air escapes whatsoever, it'll put you right back to sleep instantly. Sleep deep all the way down. Relax. Go deeper. All the way down. Hey, take your finger for me if you would. Put it right there. Don't let that finger touch your forehead. If that finger touches your forehead, it's going to put you right back to sleep. Don't let it touch. The harder you try not to let it touch, the more it will. You can even use your other hand if you want. Don't let it touch it. Don't let it touch. Pull it away. The harder you pull, the more it'll go right through your forehead. If it touches your forehead, right back to sleep and out. How about one more thunderous round of applause for all these guys up here tonight? Volunteers on stage, we're going to count from 1 to 3. When I count from 1 to 3, your eyes are going to open at the count of 3. You're going to see an amazing sight. You're going to realize that every single adult in this entire place came here tonight and forgot to get dressed. That's right, every single adult in the entire place completely, totally, 100% buck naked. Except for me. My show. Volunteers, when I bend over, you're going to think the back of my pants are gone. It'll be the worst sight you've ever seen in your entire life. It will gross you out to no end. I guarantee it. When I count from 1 to 3, though, your eyes will open at the count of 3, realizing every adult in the entire place, completely, totally, 100% buck naked. And here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Eyes open, eyes open, eyes open. Check this out. Eyes open, eyes open. Check this out. Eyes open, eyes open. Yes, ma'am. Nice to have you back. You do not want to miss this. Trust me. Eyes open. Yes, ma'am. Check them out. How are you doing there? Check them out. They're naked. That's pretty funny, isn't it? You want to see somebody who you here with? Who are you here with?
My husband.
Your husband. Is he out there in the audience? Yeah. Where's her husband? Make some noise. Where are you? Oh, right there. Can you stand up for just a second? Is that your husband? How's he look? You act like you've never seen it before. What's happening out there, ma'am? You don't? Hey, you see anything you like?
Yeah, that guy right there.
Nice. All right. Fantastic. What's happening out there, ma'am?
I see clothes.
You do it. You're lucky. You're a lucky one. How are they looking to you, ma'am?
Yeah.
Naked?
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them are naked. Yeah, anything you like out there?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. Who are you here with?
My husband.
Is he out in the audience?
Yeah.
Where is her husband? Make some noise. Where are you? Oh, where is he? Right there? Is that your husband? How's he looking?
Wonderful.
He always been out of the cabin like that?
Uh-huh.
He does? Okay. Yeah. You want to see something really cool? Hold on just a second. I got something for you. I think you're really going to like this. Hold on. Sir, can you stand up one more time? Ma'am, check them out through these glasses. Everything looks 10 times bigger through those glasses. Check them out. How's that?
Whoa!
Is that better?
Oh, yeah. He just moved his hands.
Nice, huh?
Yeah.
Ma'am, on the end, you want to try the glasses? You want to try these glasses? They're super. Yeah, you okay. They have those for a second before you hurt yourself. Yeah. So you get a pair of these in the gift shop, by the way, after the show for $200. Yeah. Check your husband out on these. How's that?
Oh, that's great.
Not bad, huh? Is that better?
Oh, well, it's great.
Hey, have you guys been up to the gym yet? Have you been up to the gym? I'll tell you, if you go up to the gym, one of the things you have to do when you go up to the gym, if you get on those leg machines, is you got to stretch out. Because you don't want to pull anything right here. Or right here, they call that the groin pull. It doesn't matter whether you pull this side or this side. It just doesn't matter. That's a nasty, nasty pull right there. One thing you don't want to do that. That is a nasty, nasty, nasty pull. I'll tell you the worst place to pull something, though, is right back in here. They call that the hamstring pull right there. You don't want to pull anything right there. That is a nasty, nasty, not so. It is a nasty, nasty place. Nasty right there. I'll tell you, that is a bad place to pull something right there. That's all I can say. It is a bad, bad place to pull. Everything okay, ma'am? Hey, is everything okay?
Yeah.
So, officer, what's the problem?
Oh, I catch my breath.
Do you mind if I have a seat? Sometimes I get tired of standing up here. Do you mind if I just have, can I have a seat right here? Ma'am, I'll try somewhere else. Do you mind, ma'am? Do you mind? Can I just have a seat down here? Do you mind? Come in for a landing. Yes, ma'am. All right, Chief. Can I just have... What's that? Can I just, I'm just kidding. I'll try somewhere else. Doesn't matter. Do you mind if I...
I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burned, burned, burned. The ring of fire, the ring of fire.
What's happening over there, ma'am?
I fell into...
What are you doing, man?
all right.
Well, man, we're trying to do a show. Come on, quit screwing around. Have a seat up here. Will you? Come on. Try a different chair if you need to. The rest of you, look right up here. Look up here now. Look up here now. The next time I bend over, it's going to be so gross, so gruesome, it'll put you right back to sleep. Look up here now. 3, 2, 1, and... Oh, the horror. Are you comforting him? Yes. You are. That's nice. Look up here. Take a nice deep breath in. Eyelids closing down. 3, closing down. 1, sleep deep. All the way down. Relax. Go deeper. All the way down. Relax and go deeper. All the way down. Have a one more thunderous round of applause for all these guys up here for coming up here tonight and volunteering and taking stuff from the bathroom. All right, folks. Hey, it is time to wrap this up. Before we do, a couple quick things. First, I'm going to be... Whoops, we got a guy out in the audience. All right. Thanks for telling me at the end of the show. Only the person whose shoulder I'm touching right now, only the person whose shoulder I'm touching right now. At the count of 3, your eyes will open at the count of 3. Your eyes will open at the count of 3. Every single time you hear the word hypnosis, every time you hear me say the word hypnosis, you'll immediately stand up, face the audience, and yell at the top of your lungs, "The hypnotist is a fake!" Do you understand exactly what I just said? You nod your head yes once. Excellent. At the count of 3, eyes open. 1. Oh, he's just sleeping. At the count of 3, 1, 2, and 3. Eyes open right here. Nice to have you back. Sorry you missed the whole show. All right. Anyway, what I was about to say is I'm going to do some seminars for you this week. The first one is going to be the day after tomorrow, and it's called Hypnosis Revealed. And I'm going to talk... That kind of hurts my feelings, I got to tell you. Anyway, it's called Hypnosis Revealed. I'm going to talk to you about what hypnosis is and what it isn't. And how you can use it to lose weight, stop smoking, get rid of stress, get rid of pain, fears, and phobias, and how you can use it for insomnia. Now, here's why you might want to show up to it. At the end of the seminar, I'm going to hypnotize everybody in the... I'm going to hypnotize everybody in the entire place that wants to be hypnotized all at once. And I'm going to give you pain relief suggestions. So if you have pain, when you walk out of that seminar, you're going to feel fantastic. Even if you don't have pain, you're still going to feel fantastic, okay? Now, it's going to be the day after tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And I'm going to do some other seminars throughout the week for weight loss, If anybody's ever wanted to try hypnosis for weight loss, for stress relief, to be this relaxed anytime you want, for pain, smoking, whatever it is, we're going to do it this. We're going to do it this week. So, but the first one's going to be tomorrow, the day after tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Now, second thing, this may come as a shock to a lot of you, but I have CDs on board the ship for sale. I do have self-hypnosis CDs. I have one to help you lose weight, one to help you stop smoking, one to help you get rid of stress, be this relaxed anytime you want, one to help you get rid of pain, one for fears and phobias, one for insomnia. Now, those CDs are $20 a piece, but here's the deal for you guys. If you buy 2 of them, that's $40. No, I'm kidding. If you buy 2, I'll give you one for free. For every 2 you buy, I'll give you one for free. All right, now I have a table set up outside on deck 6 after the show. Also, I'll have them after the seminars as well. But anyway, all right, now back to the show. Volunteers on stage. One I'll count from 1 to 5. When I count 1 to 5, your eyes will open at the count of 5. All the effects of hypnosis will have been removed, completely, totally removed, except for the person whose shoulder I'm touching right now. Only the person whose shoulder I'm touching right now. You have no idea there's anything on your head, nor do you care. Only the person whose shoulder I'm touching right now, you'll have no idea there's anything on your head until I snap my fingers by your ear and your ear only. Then you'll realize it instantly. But when you go to walk off the stage, you'll come right back up here on this stage. You'll tell everybody into the microphone this whole thing was a fake, a fraud. You were never hypnotized. Neither was anybody else. You think I'm the rudest person you've ever met in your entire life. You will not touch me. Learn that the hard way. You understand exactly what I just said? You nod your head yes once. Excellent. Only the person whose shoulder I'm touching, only the person whose shoulder I'm touching right now. Only the person whose shoulder I'm touching right now. When you go back to your seat in the audience and you hear somebody stand, you hear me say the name Tim Triplett. When you hear me say the name Tim Triplett, you will immediately stand up and for no apparent reason at all, shout at the top of your lungs, "I just wet my pants and I am darn proud of it." If you understand exactly what I just said, you nod your head yes once. Excellent. Only the person whose shoulder I'm touching, only the person whose shoulder I'm touching right now, only the person's shoulder I'm touching right now. When you back to your seat in the audience, you hear somebody stand up and yell, "I just wet my pants and I am darn proud of it." You'll immediately stand up, point to the person directly behind you and yell at the top of your lungs, "Only you can prevent forest fires." If you understand exactly what I just said, you nod your head yes once. Excellent. For the rest of you, when I count 1 to 5, your eyes open at the count of 5. All the effects of hypnosis will have been removed, completely, totally removed. And here we go. 1, coming back more and more, feeling fantastic in every way. 2, having absolutely no idea what it is you did up here until you leave the theater. As soon as you leave the theater, you'll remember every single thing you did instantly. You'll burst out laughing. You'll think it's the funniest thing you've ever done in your entire life. You will not be mad at me even a little bit. 3, feel the energy now build up inside of you from the bottom of your feet, up through your legs, your body, your shoulders, your neck, and your head. Knowing that when you go back to the audience, if the people you came here with were naked just a moment ago, when you go back to your seat in the audience, they're still naked. Until you leave this theater. As soon as you leave the theater, you'll remember every single thing you did instantly. You'll burst out laughing. You'll think it's the funniest thing you've ever done in your entire life. And you'll realize the people you came here with are fully clothed. After all, 4, coming back more and more. Feeling like you just slept for 6 to 8 hours, but when you lay down and go to sleep tonight, you'll have no trouble going to sleep. As a matter of fact, tonight, you'll get the best night's sleep of your entire life. And now one more time. Feel that energy build up inside of you again, from the bottom of your feet up to your legs, your body, your shoulders, your neck, and your head. And now finally, sitting up straight in those chairs, and 5, eyes open, having no idea what you did up here, just knowing that all this applause is for you. Having a nice round of applause for these guys. Going back to their seats in the audience. Thanks for coming up. There you go. I'll take that. There you go. Excellent. You probably don't need that anymore anyway. Yes, stand right here. Eyes open. Yes, ma'am. There you go. Eyes open. Have a seat back there in the audience corner if you would. There you go. Yes, ma'am. Okay, there you go. Just have a seat back in the audience. There you go. Yep. Be careful. Be careful. There you go. That's right. Just be careful. There you go. Be careful. There you go. Yes, ma'am. All right. You have something on your mind? It looks like you have something to say. What's the problem? What seems to be the issue here? What's the matter? You're fake.
I was never hypnotized.
So you're not hypnotized right now?
No.
You weren't hypnotized before?
No.
What about the other people on stage? Were they hypnotized?
No.
What do you think of me?
It was all fake. You're fake.
I'm sorry, I missed you because of that guy. What's that?
Never happened.
You were never hypnotized.
Oh.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's only one way to find out whether you were or you weren't.
I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, burns, burns. The ring of fire, the ring of fire.
Glad you didn't film this. What are you doing? What are you doing on the floor again?
I got poison ivy left.
Come on, man, get up. This is crazy. You can't spend your life on the floor. Hey, listen, I don't know if all that stuff you just said to me is true or not, but I do know one thing right now. You are wide awake and alert, wide awake and alert, wide awake. What you got there?
It's a hat.
It's a fish head. Hey, man, you don't need that. Hey, come here. You know what the coolest thing about being the Ring of Fire fish head guy is? You know what it is?
You look like an idiot on stage?
No, not at all. Check it out. All this applause